Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast with me, your host, Freddie Hall. I'm sorry if my camera's a little bit stuttery. My laptop runs on coal, so it's just warming up. It's just getting the fire going, It's freezing cold outside, hence why I've got a massive jumper on. I mean, Andrew's got his Franchise Tag jumper on, but Adam's basically got like nearly a bikini on in this weather. It is like, what? It's how thin is that T-shirt? It's freezing.
Well, we have heating, yeah. I mean, I don't know what's going on in your places, but there's like heating and windows closed and all that.
Mate, how the other half live? I mean, how the other half live, NFL fans? Welcome to the Franchise Tag Podcast for the old fan, the new fan, and the UK fan. We are live this evening. Adam and Andrew are back, as well as myself. You can find us all on Twitter, as you can see from our handles on the screen. Like I said, my laptop is being a little slow, but it's okay. It'll warm up. It's warming the cockles. It's fine. We're mid-season. We are halfway through the year in what is a new season where we have 18 games this year. We are at the mid-season mark, and we're going to do a mid-season review this week, talking about who's looking like they're going towards the playoffs, talking about some of the teams who have been exciting, disappointing, some of the players who have been exciting, disappointing, some of the craziness that has happened, that hasn't happened in Deshaun Watson's case for not being traded, the trade deadline just passing yesterday. Thought there'd be a lot more movement than there was. There was some interesting moves, and there's something maybe talk about and how that may influence the teams going forward. I think Mark Ingram to the Saints is definitely a topic that will probably crop up because that was a double-head giant once upon a time in New Orleans, and now Ingram is back with New Orleans and his best pal pretty much in Alvin Kamara. That could be a real force to be reckoned with over in the NFC. I feel exhausted by the NFL already. I don't know about you guys, but I can't believe we've still got another 8 weeks to go. Another 10 weeks to go, really. Andrew, so far, I mean, it's been just as good as ever, the NFL, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think it's probably been better than I expected. There's been no particular sort of runaways like there is usually. The divisions might have been signed, sealed, delivered by now in previous years, but there's still a lot up for grabs, and there's a lot of teams that we probably didn't expect to be still in the hunt for the playoffs, which is absolutely fantastic. It's great for spectators and neutrals. I suppose the big thing is just the amount of injuries and big name players that we're losing every single week. Just, halfway through the season, we're just losing massive names every week.
That's right, Adam, isn't it? Because I know there's a certain quarterback who isn't going to be playing this weekend or maybe for 2 weeks due to COVID. So, we've had 2 games in London. We've had players on IR. We've had a coach fired. We've had players going down with COVID. We've had players being able to showcase themselves because of players going down. And there's been some good players that have really come through and have looked really exciting. I mean, it's probably going to be the same going forward for the rest of the year, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's been eventful. It is, every year it is eventful. With this, with the NFL, you're always going to get injuries. It's just how it is. And it's just a matter of whether any of the teams can survive without it. I mean, there's some big names, like you said, that have gone. We'll probably touch on Derrick Henry later. It's a massive loss to the Titans and whether they can keep going. I mean, it's been pretty chaotic. I would be surprised if it stopped. It will keep going. It always does every year. It should be fun to see what's happening. But as you said, there are some teams that are looking very, very good, and there are some teams that are looking very, very bad. I think it's shaping up to be a really good season and to see who can make it into the playoffs.
Well, no matter what happens, the NFL machine is constantly moving forward. And I think talking about the Titans and the AFC is actually a really good place to start. Why don't we look at the AFC side of things? Not division by division. We feel like tonight, there's no point going division by division because some of the teams that are, in the AFC, 1-6 Jags, 1-7 Texans, that everyone 2-5 Jets, everyone saw that come in. That's not very big, much of a big shocker. It's more about the teams that are maybe progressing forward to going to the top, going through to the playoffs, to the Super Bowl. At the minute, the Tennessee Titans are top of the AFC side of things with 6-2. The Raiders being second at 5-2, the Ravens at 5-2, and the Bills at 5-2. Then 3 wildcard teams would be the Cincinnati Bengals, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the LA Chargers. If all ended tomorrow, notable people. Teams that are definitely were in with a shout at the start of the year and are not there. The Kansas City Chiefs, the Cleveland Browns, the Indianapolis Colts, Miami Dolphins, I suppose, was definitely people thought on a wild card cusp team. Andrew, how impressed have you been by the, let's say the people that are winning their division, the Titans, the Raiders, the Ravens, and the Bills so far this year?
Yeah, I think leading up everything up to this week, the Titans have been really, really impressive for me. I was unsure about them. I've said in previous shows that I felt like everyone was saying how good of an organization they are this year, but I just wasn't sold on a few elements to their team and wasn't sure whether it was strong enough to take the distance. But it's kind of proved me wrong week in, week out with the teams that they've been taking down. Whether that all changes with the loss of Derrick Henry, I don't know. I think maybe in my head, losing Derrick Henry means, those kind of games you're 50-50 on. I think they're probably going to lose them now. That's my personal opinion. I think he sees them over the line in a lot of those close fixtures. And without him, maybe, they don't get those wins. I still think they're in an excellent position to qualify for the playoffs regardless. They've already set themselves up with 6 wins already. I think, you only need another 5 and you're definitely in with a shout, and definitely beating the Colts twice puts you in a great spot as well. Equally, the Bills, I thought they were stronger on paper than what they have been. They've not really blown me away every single week. I think there has been some holes in their game. They have lost 2 unexpected games, but I think that the organization they are, and they're taking leaps and bounds, so they'll be fine and they'll be a good shot for the Super Bowl. I think they're going to be strong. Raiders for me is still a surprise with how tough their division is, but we've spoke about them a lot over the last few weeks. Really impressed with them. Really impressed with the defense. Really impressed with Derek Carr. I suppose the big one that you'll probably want to touch on, and I'll leave it to you, Freddie, to talk about, is the AFC North. I don't really know what to say about what that league. It's always tough every year. And I think every single one of those teams is still within a shout. I don't think you can write off any of them.
I'm surprised at where we are in terms of the Browns and the Bengals. The Ravens win the division. I didn't think the Ravens would be. I thought at this point it would be a bit of a 2-horse race between the Browns, the Ravens, and I feel as could be in with a bit of the conversation to get into the wild card at least. I then think the Steelers would drop off later on. I didn't think the Browns would be this far behind, given the injuries they are having, though. Like we said, these things changed the course of NFL teams throughout the year. Losing Baker Mayfield for that game, I know they still won the game. But Nick Chubb was out for a moment. Kareem Hunt was out for a moment. Odell Beckham Jr. today was sent home from practice. That's probably due to him not being traded, or even the fact that they were maybe going to trade him. You never know with Odell. I feel like Odell at the time felt that Cleveland was greener pastures. It's not really been that way. I think the greener pasture was in New York. You guys loved him in New York. He was brilliant in New York. He looked like a number 1 wide receiver at the Giants. He's not looking that way now. It hasn't been for a few years.
Do you not think that they should have traded him? I mean, I remember like this time last year, we spoke about this. When we were doing a different podcast, we spoke about this about Odell, and we were saying about him going, and I don't quite understand where the Browns are with this one. Like, to me, it seems like a no-brainer.
I don't know whether the needle falls here, because I feel like the Saints and the Packers were apparently the 2 big teams, Saints being more so.
Yeah.
From what
I've read today on quite a lot of social media that there's a potential that the Browns might cut him now. There's obviously been a fallout, and they said he won't play again for them, really. I think it said that Kevin Stefanski said he's not in the immediate plans. So if he does get cut, I think you've seen already the Raiders and the Saints already been front runners to pick him up if he is cut. So that could be a possibility.
Well, the reports that came out that an AFC GM said that nobody was calling for Odell. I didn't believe that in the first place. I thought at least somebody would be calling for him, and the Saints Packers called for him. Now, the argument was, well, if he isn't at the Browns tomorrow, at least 28 teams are going to be coming after him. And it's one argument I saw on Shannon and Skip Bayless on Undisputed, for people who watched that over there. It was a very good argument, but they were having Skip Bayless saying, well, where are these 28 teams now? This GM is saying they're not here. And Shannon Sharp went, 28 teams looking at Odell Beckham Jr. not going to get him on a base value contract, whatever they want to pay him, and not losing any compensation, not having to give any picks away. It's a no-brainer for even to take a risk on Odell Beckham Jr. It's a no-brainer. We'll move away from Odell, though. The other division, obviously, in the AFC North is the Cincinnati Bengals, who have really come from a fiery start. I thought this organization would be going in this direction. I just didn't think it'd be now. I do think, though they lost to the Jets and it was a bit of a wild loss and everything like that, they are still a good team moving forward, and they can beat teams for our. They made some good decisions over the summer in February. Sorry, with the players they brought in. I did think they overpaid for Trey Hendrickson, but him and Hubbard on that line is great. I always thought the Mike Hilton move was really good for them. Jamar Chase is just jackpot. Considering that the first episode we did together, us three this year, we said that Jamar Chase, what's going on with him? Is he going to be able to make it? We didn't doubt it. None of us said, this is clearly not going to work. But we opened the conversation to the possibility that maybe what if it doesn't work? He wasn't catching the balls. People were very unimpressed with him in that preseason. Well, he's stuck two fingers up to everybody who thought that, because he is offensive rookie of the year at the moment. In my eyes, he's offensive rookie of the year. He has been dynamite. He's dynamite for betting. He's dynamite for fantasy. He has carried Adam's team half the year.
How dare you? I've got loads of great players.
He's probably won a lot of people a lot of money as well in bets, because he seems to get a touchdown all the time. He seems to get the yards. Joe Burrow's working. It's working. Zach Taylor, I think it's working as well. I remember doing a podcast before you guys came here this time last year, really, about how it wasn't working for Zach Taylor. Do they stay patient? Do they not? Etc. And it just didn't seem like it was going in the right direction. That's completely changed. The AFC North is a very strong division. The problem is there's a division over in the NFC that I think is stronger, but unfortunately, he's having a few injury problems over in Seattle. Speaking, the AFC North is an interesting one, but let's move on to the Bills are in there as well at 5-2. An always obvious one. Arguably the most exciting team in football. Adam, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're a pretty good side. They've looked really good, haven't they? Offensively, maybe not quite as explosive as what they were last year, but even still, I think they're a team that definitely look like they've got a lot of quality there. They're going to make a really strong run for it. I mean, when you look at the AFC side, we were all coming out going, it's going to be Bills and Chiefs. Well, it doesn't look like it's going to be the Chiefs, so it's probably going to be the Bills. I mean, when you look at the teams that are right at the very top of their divisions, the Ravens look good, but I would probably say the Bills look better. The Titans without Derrick Henry, the Bills certainly look better. And the Raiders have been a surprise. And the Chargers haven't really been a surprise, but they've had times when they've looked decent, and then they've lost games as well. So they haven't been quite as good as what I think a lot of people hoped. I think the Bills are the obvious ones now. They've got a really strong offense, and that defense has improved tenfold on last year.
I think when you talk about all these AFC teams in this bracket, including division winners and wild card, the Bills are the only ones I back on both sides of the ball.
Yeah,
but offensively and defensively, they are so good on each side. Whereas I feel like all the rest of these teams have a little bit of a weak. I think the Titans, great with Derrick Henry. Have Ryan Tannehill is good. The wide receiver rooms fantastic. Their defense has not been great. It's good, but it's not been great at any given point. The Raiders, I think any given day someone can beat them still. I don't think they are that great. I think they're a decent team, but I don't think they are that great. But their defense has been better than their offense. But Derek Carr has been what Derek Carr should have been for quite a long time. The Ravens, again, it's all about Lamar. But his throwing ability is becoming incredible. He's He's really taken that next step onto that. I just still don't trust their defense. I think missing Marcus Peters is a massive thing for them. And then when you look at the wildcard teams in the moment, the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Chargers, I can't trust it. I feel like at any given day, again, they can lose. Even my team, the Steelers, they can lose any given day. I don't trust both the sides of the ball on there. They've got a great front seven, but they haven't got a great secondary. Getting beaten over the top a lot, and they need a lot of things to go their way offensively. We've seen that in the last few weeks. I said about them playing the Packers, and that's the best you see against them against a good team. And that's exactly what we've seen. You've seen them do really well the last few weeks, but we played Cleveland without a full strength team and played Broncos, who are a beatable team. And we didn't look great against the Browns by no means either. And then you have the Bengals. And again, the Bengals, I don't overly trust everything on there yet. Whereas the Bills, I just feel so confident about both sides of the ball. And again, every year we say the Bills need to take one step, and they're getting closer and closer and closer. We said it, get the big time wide receiver. They got Stephon Diggs. They hadn't got no pass rush last year. What they go and do? They went and got Gregory Rousseau. They got Jerry Hughes. Okay, Andrew, we get it. You said Gregory Rousseau was going to be amazing, and he's been very good. AJ Espinosa has been well as well. Their defensive front is really great, and their front seven, Tremaine Edmonds, Matt Milano is playing really great. This is the next step. So is that next step, Andrew, going to take them to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, the way they've played and the way that, like you both said, that they've shut out teams on both sides of the ball, it's got to be the next step for them to progress. It's got to that point now where you can't really accept just the divisional championship game and losing in it. You need to push, and I think it's with the drop off of the Chiefs, they are the team that is now the front runner that has a precedent to set. You know, the others are almost wild cards when they get to that. You know, they're the Bills are the team now with the momentum behind them from the previous seasons to be the team to say, if you don't do it this year with the Chiefs not being so good, you've not done well. That's harsh, but I think that's where they're at.
Yes, there's no weakness, is there? You know, that's the thing. When you actually look at that team now, there's no weakness. I think last year you could have come out with the argument for certain parts of the defense. I think this year, you know, they've got the number one ranked defense, and they just look really good. And also the other thing, and the big thing that I think has helped them, is bringing in a veteran like Emmanuel Sanders at wide receiver. I think that's a massive thing for them because it helps the younger guys as well. So I think that just brings everyone together.
Well, their weakness last year was edge rusher. It was pass rushing. They were in the bottom half of the league in sacks and things like that, and they went and addressed it straight away. And they've kept and what's important is they've kept the elements. They didn't lose anyone really. They signed Matt Milano to quite a big contract, I remember, and that everyone's been like, don't know about that, but
yeah,
it's worked. It's definitely worked. While we're on the subject of the Chiefs, shocking, surprising. Won't be able to come back. Will get a wild card spot. Adam, what's the feeling with you? Because like we said on the last episode, last episode of the episode before, a lot of people are saying what I said a couple of weeks ago about that he's playing up to the persona of Patrick Mahomes at the minute, and that sidearm throw at the weekend, beautiful throw, like absolutely beautiful, like stunning throw to see to Tyreek Hill. It was amazing, but again, the flashy things happen. They put the ball in Mahomes' hands a lot. They're not running the ball. They are very much not running the ball when they could do it. It's what's going on over in Kansas. We know it's the defense is poor, but nothing has changed that much for this team, I don't think.
I think the defense is a massive problem. It wasn't like it last year. You know, that is a big thing. So I do think it puts a lot of pressure onto Mahomes and the offense to score as many times as possible. So I think that's something. I still, you know, I've mentioned this before. I think he's still got a bit of a mental block with the O-line from last year. I think that is he just got into that routine that he had to run, he had to perform miracles every time. I think that is something that is he's just got into that habit now, and for whatever reason he can't seem to snap out of it. So I do feel that's a problem. I think everyone is a bit shocked and a bit surprised that this has happened, because obviously, you know, they were in the Super Bowl last year. So to do that and then end up where they are at the moment, where they're 4-4, and to be honest, they didn't look great against the Giants. They really
did not.
didn't.
If it weren't for a muffed call by the refs,
yeah,
and a lot of penalties.
Well, the other thing is just, I mean, the amount of time where they just didn't score. You know, they just did not move the ball past. You know, they couldn't get through the chains. It was just unbelievable. And maybe a lot of that is down to the lack of a run game. But to be real, you know, I mean, Clyde Edwards-Helaire last year, he wasn't exactly the greatest running back in the world. So it's the running game is worse because he's not there, but it's not like it was amazing last year. So, you know, you have got that as well. I think it's just a surprise because of the drop off. That's the thing. It's just really shocking because of that. Having said all that, I still think that they've obviously got the potential to get into the playoffs. Of course they do, because of the players that they have there. But at the moment, it doesn't look like it, because they are, I mean, like I said, they struggled on Monday night. You know, the Giants, predominantly due to injuries, I might add, have really suffered this year. But at the same time, they haven't been great. So you do sort of think to yourself, if you're struggling against a team that aren't that great, especially offensively, it doesn't look great for the Chiefs. But I do think that they will probably sneak through because they've got the star players just to do it for them.
Well, now we're talking about the Giants, why don't we move on to the NFC side of things? So, obviously, at the minute, Adam, your Green Bay Packers are in the number one position. Behind is the Arizona Cardinals at 7-1 as well. The Dallas Cowboys at 6-1. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers 6-2. And in their wildcard spots at the minute would be the LA Rams at 7-1. The New Orleans Saints at 5-2. It's three wildcard teams, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and then the Carolina Panthers at 4-4. So notable absences at the minute for that wild card spots really is the Seahawks, the 49ers. I would argue that's about it. Some people argued Washington would be in the conversation. Well, any of the NFTs could have been in the conversation. But at the minute, two of the teams are in the bottom three. And then Philly are only 3-5, so it's not like doing much better. But Packers, this is business as usual, right?
Pretty much, yeah. You know, just keep on winning. It's all good, isn't it? So
this is what I find about the Packers, though, is I watch the Packers every time and go, they're not that great. Like, there's always something I go, there's nothing. You're not that great somewhere, or this is something happens in the game, whatever. But there is magic at the same time. Yeah. And then I look at the record and I go, you've only lost one game, and I go, you're top of the NFC East, and yet I don't. Nothing, though Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams' connection is incredibly exciting. Aaron Jones is phenomenal. I think there's elements of your defense which are really good. Kenny Clark's one of the best nose tackles in football. Jair Alexander being one of the best cornerbacks. I think it's unfair to say his secondary's been bad this year. I don't think it's been that bad because that's what everyone was saying in the offseason was your secondary was awful, cornerback was awful, and yet you've got one loss to that. And, you know, I know there could be another loss coming Sunday, but isn't this quite a perfect opportunity to see why you moved up all that way to get Jordan Love?
Yeah, I mean, I said that the game last week against the Cardinals, we sort of mentioned it a little bit last week. I said this is the future. You can see that is the future of the Packers, and it's in a way it's really nice to see that they won that game because it goes to show that they can still compete. Aaron Rodgers in that game did not throw a single pass over 10 yards. It was all slants. It was all little dink and dunk passes. And the run game took over and they managed the clock. And LaFleur just did really well with it. And they went to a team who at the time were undefeated, 7-0. And although we kind of feel a little bit like maybe it's a bit like the Steelers last year, it was quite an impressive performance to be able to go and do that. So Yeah, I think this is going to be an opportunity to see what Jordan Love can do. I think there's going to be a lot of that going on against the Chiefs. I think it is going to be relying on that run game quite a lot. And when you actually look at, you look at the Packers and how they've been this year, there's been a lot of games that have been very close. They haven't blown out any teams, but they've just looked really solid, and they've looked really solid at all the positions. And I think now that will carry on this year. And now I feel like there's no reason for us not to think that it's going to happen again next year as well.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you, Adam, that I just don't think the Packers have got out of second gear yet, and they're 7-1 without getting out of second gear. For me, that is a dangerous position for a franchise to be in, because as soon as they move up a gear, and they're a franchise and an organization that knows how to go up a gear, and when that happens, I think they're just going to start blowing teams out. They lost week 1, and there was a lot of drama in the Packers camp week 1 with everything that happened in the offseason. I think that affected them. They got their act together, and then it's just been, business as usual. And like I said, I still think they're coasting in second gear. So when they go up a gear, it's going to be dangerous. I think Jordan Love going up against the Chiefs for his first proper game is probably a good game for him to go out against. There's going to be a bit of fight in there because it's against the Chiefs and you want to beat the Chiefs. But also that defense of the Chiefs has been very disappointing, and he's got all of the weapons available to him. So I think he'll do fine, and I think Packers will quite comfortably beat the Chiefs, business as usual still.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that it just shows the caliber of a franchise that just seems to do it year on year. Like just year on year is an excellent franchise. The problem is when they have to go into that second gear, can they? Because they haven't done it against the Bucs. They didn't do it against the Bucs in the NFC Championship, and they didn't do it against the 49ers in the NFC Championship the year before. What makes it different from them this year? Because for me, I think it's the NFC Championship of them v the Rams. It's either the Bucs or the Packers and the Rams in the NFC Championship for me. What do they need to do this year to get over that hump?
I'm not really sure, because every year they've done everything right to get to the playoffs and where they are in the playoffs. And again, I can see them coming up against the Cowboys or someone like that in the playoffs and losing it. The playoffs is a whole different ball game. When I was talking earlier, I was just talking about the main season. That they're doing it right. They manage to do something every year in the playoffs to lose, and whether that be down to injuries or not managing it well or what. But they've got to learn from their mistakes that they made in the previous years, and just when they get to the playoffs, do the basics, the things that they do all season well, and don't go for any crazy decisions, no random field goals or, fourth downs that you shouldn't. Just do basics well, which they have the stars on that team to do that. But yeah, the playoffs is always going to hang over them. And like I said, I'm very impressed with the Cowboys this year. As a Giants fan, that's hard to say.
For me, with the Packers, it's for the last two NFC Championships, they've just been bullied. They've just not shown grit. But I hope they can do that if they get to the NFC Championship this year. We'll talk about let's talk about the Cardinals, then we'll talk about the Cowboys. So 7-1, the Cardinals, most surprising team this year. I think people knew they were going up the step. We said we didn't like them bringing all these veteran players in, and yet it really has worked. Unfortunately, they have lost JJ Watt now for the season, which I think actually is going to be a massive blow, a real big blow to that team, unfortunately. But bringing in AJ Green has done well with them. This team seems to be clicking and doing the right things. The problem is they've had this first loss now. Again, we've said it feels a bit Steelers. It feels like they've ridden the hot hand a little bit, and they're a good team, but are they that good a team? We just don't know. What's your opinion on this? Because I know you've since the start gone. I'm not sure on these.
Yeah, they've proved me wrong through the start of the season. There's a couple of teams they've beat, but I said when they come up against a good defense, I think they'll struggle. And they got over a couple of those games. But it's the same story as why I'm not sold on Kyler Murray as well. When I've always said he's super impressive until he starts getting hit. And then we saw it last year. He got hit, he got hurt. And then when he came back, that team just wasn't the same. It was a completely different team, and it just sort of fell off the radar. And he's been hit now a few times by these good defenses, and we've seen him. He's now injured. I'm not sure how long he's out for. So it's happened again. It's the midway through the season. Is he going to come back and be as brave as he has been through the start of the season, or is he going to be a little bit more cautious about getting hit again and missing more time in the season? We also said that bringing the veterans in was a bit of a question mark. And the question mark for me for the veterans was, are you relying on older people to last the season as well? We've already lost JJ Watt, and we've said these veterans might run out of steam come sort of week 12, 13, 14, when you're going to really, really need them down the stretch. Is that going to work? So although they have been impressive and they are playing good football, can they maintain it is going to be my question for them, because we've seen them in this position before and they've fallen off of the radar completely. So, and they're in a very tough division. As soon as they let the foot off the pedal slightly, the Rams are just going to be straight above them. So yeah, I'm still not fully sold yet.
Yeah, I think Kyler didn't practice today. Neither did DeAndre Hopkins. However, I think both are expected to play at the weekend. I actually don't think. I think you've been unfair about Kyler running around this year. I don't think he has as much. I think he has actually been utilizing the weapons because he's had a lot more weapons outside of DeAndre Hopkins. Christian Kirk's really come along. They brought in Zach Ertz. AJ Green obviously has been a big boom for them as well. I don't see him running around as much as he used to. However, you are right. When he has been a hit, he could miss maybe a game. Is he going to bounce back and be the exact same? Let's move on to the Cowboys. That you saying about it hurts as a Giants fan to see them doing well, and everything in me doesn't want to like this. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I still don't look at the Cowboys as a successful, doing well team, and yet, when you watch them, you can't argue how good they are. I mean, but is the problem that this is how we expected the Cowboys to be performing for a while, and they're only now just performing to what they should have been doing for about 2 or 3 years, but they've not been doing that. They've been pretty poor the last 2 years. Yes, there's been injuries. Dak Prescott, obviously, injury last year was so big, but they're now they're playing. They're not playing at their peak, but they're playing to what we expect them to be playing like. And is that why maybe people are not so sold on Dallas or not talking about Dallas enough? Because, of course, you're going to play well when you've got Dak Prescott, Zeke, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, CeeDee Lamb, and then you've got defense, some great defensive players, DeMarcus Lawrence, Leighton Van Der Esch, Micah Parsons. No one had any doubts about Micah Parsons when he came in. Trayvon Diggs, for me, defensive player of the year at the minute, been just unstoppable at the cornerback position. He's really come on. So that is one of the surprises about the Dallas Cowboys this year. What's your opinion on that? Being obviously a man of watching the NFC East a lot.
Yeah, I think a lot of people weren't sold on the Cowboys because we saw them last year when Dak was fit. Firing on all cylinders, the offense looking absolutely incredible. But the defense just absolutely woeful. Dak was leading the league in all stats before his injury, and they lost most of those games still. So I think the question marks, because they only really added Micah Parsons into that defense when everyone said, they had a lot of linebackers. Everyone said, the secondary is the problem. The secondary is probably the worst in the league. But now Trayvon Diggs is, who's throwing the ball near him? I'm not. Trayvon Diggs has stepped up and just become the whole secondary for the Cowboys. And that's really made a difference, I think. Like, their defense has stepped up this year, which means that offense can just go about its usual business. And we saw them win a game with their backup as well. So, they're doing all the right things. The only thing I would say is they haven't been tested by one of the Giants yet. Like, not Giants as in the New York Giants, as in they've lost to the Bucks, and then they played Chargers, Eagles, Panthers, Giants, Pats, and then they had that good win against the Vikings. None of those teams are particularly going to be even in the playoff chat. So they haven't come up against any of the big names, and I don't think they do particularly play any of them at all. They've got quite a nice schedule this year. The next run of games is Broncos, Falcons, Chiefs, and then they play the Raiders. So I just feel like a nice schedule this year. They've had a good run at the start, so it's always nice to have a bit of momentum behind you. And as long as that defense carries on the way it is, I think they'll keep their doubters quiet.
We'll move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now that Adam has come back to us. The Buccaneers lost 2 games, admittedly. Lost to the Saints the other day. You could argue Brady's bogey team in the last few years, but he's been in Tampa Bay, even though it has only been 2 years that he's been in Tampa Bay. You lose to a team without James Winston for half the game, but New Orleans Saints have got a great defense. You can't argue against that. The defense hasn't exactly stepped up for the Bucs. It's not been the same defense that we remember from the Super Bowl, but it was the exact same this time last year. It wasn't incredible last year. Do you think it's the same trend again this year for them?
I think it wouldn't surprise me if it was. I mean, I think the Bucs are definitely, they're a good team. We know they're a good team. Well, when they're on their day, they can beat anyone. They struggled in a couple of games last year that they lost. They struggled against the Saints last year and lost. I think that it wouldn't be surprising at all if they did exactly the same again and they ended up coming through and winning the whole thing again. It really wouldn't be surprising. I do think that there does seem to be a slightly that they're not rolling quite as efficiently as what they did last year. I think that's something that is obvious to see. But yeah, I mean, I would be surprised if they weren't there towards the end of the whole NFL season.
Yeah, because what happened last year was the precipice they said for winning the Super Bowl was they went on that stretch of losing a few games, and basically Tom went, I don't lose, so let's just stop doing that now, and we're going to win. But I'm saying it with a lot less explicitives than he probably used, but that's pretty much what he said. It was like, I don't lose. We are going to go and do it, and we're going to win it all. And that's just the mentality of Tom Brady. Let's talk about the wildcard teams. We've got the Rams at 7-1. Obviously, huge news breaking yesterday about them trading a second round and a third round pick for Von Miller. As Von Miller is that the key to this to a Super Bowl winning team here? Because they were pretty darn good already.
I mean, I don't really think it makes that much difference. I mean, Von Miller is not Von Miller of a few years ago. He's a quality player. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's going to be the particular thing that's going to mean that they're going to win the Super Bowl and win the whole thing. I can't see it myself. I think they're a very good team, but I don't know if they're going to get all the way there. I mean, I think they might. I can see that they end up going up against someone, whether it be the Bucks, the Packers, even the Cowboys, and I think they might just end up losing out just that little bit. So I don't think it's necessary. I think Stafford's more the final piece. He's more important to them than what Von Miller would be. I think they've just gone for it in the hope that he can sort of come back to his form of when he was, when they won the Super Bowl and just get them over the line. But I don't know. I mean, he's a really good player. but I think the Rams are just they're going to end up. No one's ever bought it before. That's the thing, and the Rams are trying to buy it, and I think that's where they're going to end up falling short.
Do you think that's a fair criticism, Andrew, for they're trying to buy it? I mean, they've done big trades year on year. They have been aggressive, and we've said on this podcast before that aggressive wins in this league. It really does. And they were aggressive getting Jalen Ramsey. They were aggressive getting Von Miller. They were aggressive getting Matt Stafford. Is it buying it, or is it that they've had the stones to go, we're going to go get players, we don't need the draft picks? I mean, a lot of these teams, why do the Rams need a second round and third round draft pick? Where are they going to play on this team? They're not going to start on this team.
Yeah, it's the Los Angeles mentality, isn't it? You know, we've seen this from the Lakers and the Dodgers. You know, they just go out and get the big names and play the season and then worry about it later. So seeing the Rams do this is not surprising. They've been doing this for a number of years now. So I'm not shocked by them doing it. As you said, you can pick up in the draft. No one's a for sure hit in the draft. You know, you can pick up some absolute golden players in the third rounds, fourth rounds, fifth rounds. You know, you can just strengthen your team with players from the sixth round, playing with those veterans that you've got there, just backups to relieve them and keep them fit. So I think, you know, why not do what they're doing? Why try and invest? I think also when you look at their roster, I think I'd arguably say they are the equivalent to the Bills of the NFC. I think they've got the most complete roster on both sides of the ball. I think they've got absolute fantastic stars on defense, and that offensive machine and weapon. There might be, again, the Bills are struggling slightly at running back, as are the Rams with their backups. But, you know, for me, they are the closest team matched to the Bills right now for a chance of, if you're looking at it from AFC, NFC. So, you know, I think they're the real deal, and I don't necessarily think they're trying to buy the league. I just think they're in win now mode all the time, and they just rotate the system. We've seen this before.
And then we say about the last two teams, the NFC South teams, got the Saints and the Panthers slotting in here. Now James Winston pretty much out for the year. They look like they're going to be going with Trevor Siemian. In fact, I don't know if James Winston is out for the year. I could be lying about that. I think he's going to be out for a while, though. Trevor Siemian going to be in the driving seat there. Again, no wide receivers there. Michael Thomas isn't going to be coming back anytime soon. They have got one of the best defenses in the league, but they have that every year. It has been offensively a problem for a while because it's just been Kamara and Thomas and not really much else. Even under Drew Brees, that was the problem. Can you see this team push forward in the wild card spot? And the same with the Panthers. Panthers now have Christian McCaffrey back on IR. 1 week they're dynamite. The next week they can be okay and they lose very dramatically. The Panthers are, again, when we talk about trustworthy teams, I really want to see them do well, but they just are not trustworthy for me at all at the moment, Adam.
I think the Saints definitely have the potential to be a wild card team. I think it would. I actually think it'd be quite surprising because I think that Sean Payton is the reason that that team's getting wins and he's adapting to things. And you got to bear in mind, I mean, okay, Drew Brees wasn't great at the end of his career, but he was still better than what Jameis Winston is. And I think that they'll still win games with with Trevor Siemian there. I don't think that'll be a problem for them. So I think that they will be. When it comes to the Panthers, I mean, you just can't trust Sam Darnold at the moment. You just don't know what's going to happen. He could have a really good game and it'll be great. He could have a really bad game and it all goes wrong. McCaffrey is 1 minute he's coming back, then he's not. I think he's meant to be coming back in a couple of weeks. I don't think he's going to be back this week. I don't know. I think the Panthers are going to end up falling short just purely because of Darnold just not being quite good enough, unfortunately, for him.
Do you think there's any team that might sneak in there, Andrew?
I'm just going to quickly go back to the Saints before we start that. Just because I want to ask you guys the question. You've both gone with Trevor Siemian. Do you not think that Taysom Hill, with what he did last year when Brees was out, would be in with a shout to take the helm straight off of Siemian as soon as he's fit enough.
I think there's a strong chance that Hill will take it. I think that, like you say, he played, was it 5 games last year, won 4 of them with the way that that Sean Payton set up with Taysom Hill. I think there's a strong chance he does take it. But I think the point is that he could put Trevor Siemian in there and they would still win games, or he could put any one of us in there and probably have a good go. I mean, it's the coaching that will get them.
I would not be doing much throwing. I'd be going, here, Alvin, do something, Alvin. Just run.
Yeah, I think when you the second question you asked me, is there anyone I've been surprised about that we haven't really spoke about? When you look at the records of all the teams now, I'm shocked at the Vikings. I thought they'd be better. And other than that, I think obviously the 49ers, again, I thought they'd be a bit more competitive, but they've had injuries as they have every year. I think the only notable one to say surprised me is probably the Eagles. I think they've been more impressive than I thought they were going to be. And they look like an outfit that on their day can beat teams, which I didn't expect. So for me, if we're outside of the teams we spoke about, I mean, I don't think they're going to do anything. I don't particularly think they're going to challenge for a playoff spot, but they have surprised me with how well they've done.
Okay, so to close out the show, February, what's the Super Bowl, Adam?
Bills, Bucks.
Bills, Bucks. And who would you take today? who would you take today winning that?
Bucks.
Bucks to beat the Bills. Andrew?
Bills, Rams.
And you're thinking?
Gonna go with Rams because they've been there before.
I'm going to go Bills, Rams as well. And I would go the Rams as well. I think there's just a bit more experience there on that team for these sort of games. Well, that's the Super Bowl. Put your money on it now because one of us is correct, because we are so knowledgeable. We have so much foresight in the NFL. We'd have loved to talk about the predictions episode that we did at the start of the season, but quite frankly, we ran out of time. We thought this was a bit more of an open forum, a bit more of a laugh, and Andrew wasn't on that episode. So thought we'd have a bit of a good fun doing that one as well. Thank you for joining us this evening. This episode will be out for you to watch the rest of the week on YouTube and on our social media channels. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. We have got the Fantasy Show on tomorrow. Andrew is back returning with that. A certain other co-host might be on tomorrow, and another certain co-host might be on tomorrow. So if you see 3 faces that look familiar to you, don't worry. It's not the same show. You're not watching a repeat. It is a different show. It'll be the Fantasy Football Show. And boy, have I got a lot to talk about. Sunday, we'll have the preview show, which we have every week. Until then, follow us on social media. Follow us individually on social media as well. Like I said, like and subscribe to the channel. Have a good rest of your week. Good night.